Where we at? Where we at? See Simone.
Hi, and welcome back to Learning to Live in Translation, the podcast about what happens when language, culture, and expectation collide. I'm Simone. Last week, we focused on London dating language. Today is part one of exploring what it means to grow up between worlds, the beauty and the complications of being from a mixed cultural family. For many, being of a mixed heritage, growing up in a diverse family setting, means their lives are like a collage. Perhaps there's two languages or dialects at the dinner table, two kinds of lullabies, two holidays that smell like palak paneer and a Sunday roast, or kimchi and bread rolls and jerk chicken and rice and peas. For some, it can be complex, as part of their family isn't around, so they may not understand parts of their heritage and feel like the outsider or misunderstood. First, a bit of a dive into how language has evolved in London and throughout Britain. In the 20th century, the term half-caste was used to describe people who had a white parent and a quote-unquote non-white parent. This term carried a historical weight of colonialism and racial hierarchy. Therefore, its usage to describe an individual has a negative connotation. In my English class in secondary school, we studied various poetry, and one particular poem stood out, Half-Caste, by John Agard. Here are some of the lines that really spoke to me. Explain yourself, what you mean. I'm sure you'll understand why I offer you half a hand. And when I sleep at night, I close half a eye. Consequently, when I dream half a dream. And when moon begin to glow, I half-caste human being. In 2001, the term mixed replaced half-caste, reflecting a change to an identity-based language that acknowledges multiple cultures. Other terms such as dual heritage, biracial, multiracial, mixed heritage are also used. Yet there are still terms that are used that are perceived as offensive. Terms like not white enough, not black enough, lighty, to name a few. Joining me today are three amazing women. They're all my sisters. But to break it down, we have Sophia, my cousin, a travel biz and mindset coach, teaching ambitious women to earn from travel and step into their authentic self. We are also joined by Kiaya, my sister, a graduate from university who is ambitiously pursuing her dreams in the midst of working. And last but not least, we have Katrina, one of my closest friends who works with children, sharing her passion, care and kindness to all. For today's show, my guests will use the terms that are comfortable for them and are generally accepted. Sophia, how was it growing up for you in London with a dual heritage?
I think I had the best experience growing up as a mixed race person in London because everyone around me was literally from every culture, diversity, you name it. So I never really realized how special my experience was until I went to university and I made friends with people who were not from London, and they used to say things to me like, I've never met an X group of person, I've never met that type of person. And I was really confused by the sentiment because where I was from in Tottenham, everybody was everything. So you could be whatever you like and you never felt othered or stared at.
That's a great positive experience of growing up. Have you ever experienced feeling different, maybe outside of London?
It was only when I started visiting other places in the UK that people used to stare at me and my brother, or they used to make comments about our identity, that it made me realize that, oh, this isn't the normal kind of experience. And for me, I always think about in the future when I have my own children, I would never want to move to an area where they are going to be the only one of something. You know, being mixed race myself means that I'm going to have mixed race children no matter who I marry. And I can never imagine moving my children to an area where they're the only non-white kid in their class.
It's an important point you made about moving and the implications it could have on any future children who would also be biracial. This resonates with how both my husband and I felt about moving abroad, and we found the right environment which also reflects many cultures, and thankfully, having our child grow up here, we hope and we believe that she will have a very similar experience of embracing her identity as mixed race. Sophia, you also mentioned not wanting to move to another area. It shows you feel right at home.
Funny because both sides of my family moved from London to up north, and they always ask me, oh, when are you moving to the north? Because you never can buy in London now, it's too expensive. And the answer is never, because I don't want to move somewhere where it's not so culturally diverse, where so many cultures are celebrated. I want to be somewhere where it's inclusive and I feel a part of something rather than a weirdo or an exception to a rule, or to feel stared at or any of those sort of things. So I think London is the ideal place to really be free to be who you want to be. And that's the beauty of growing up in London.
Great vibe. Kaya, tell us how it was for you growing up biracial.
My personal experience, there's one word that I would use for this, and that would be confusing.
Why was it confusing for you?
Reason why it was so confusing for me is because two things. Number one, I didn't have as much influence from my Caribbean side as I did from my mum's side, which is just white English. And so when I would go to school and when you'd have multicultural days and stuff like that, it's just little things like where it's like one fact about, you know, the other country that you're from that no one else knows. And I'd be like, huh? You know, that kind of thing. So there was that. So a lot of confusion and not really knowing where I fitted in. But then in terms of my experience of how other people treated me with girls, I just didn't know where I fitted in. Like, so I wasn't white enough, but I also wasn't black enough. And this is just a mixed race experience for me. And I wasn't enough of anything. So where did I kind of fit?
Girl, that's definitely understandable. And I imagine many people would relate to not perhaps fitting into a particular group.
I just wanted to add here, there's a lot of conversation sometimes around if your mother is white, then you have one sort of experience. And if you've got a black mother, then it's a different experience. And there's a lot of sweeping statements that get made. And actually what I think some of the identity issues that mixed race people might experience, which I didn't, comes down to more the area you grew up in rather than which way your parents are, like which one is black and which one is white, or whatever ways or cultures you're mixed with. Growing up with other people that you identify with and you can relate to is so important for your identity.
Yeah,
I agree. People you can identify with makes a huge amount of difference. Katrina, how was your experience and how did others identify you?
Well, living in central London, Elephant and Castle to be exact, as a girl with mixed heritage background was fine. Elephant and Castle is predominantly Hispanic based, and my secondary school, Notre Dame, was predominantly Black African, Black Jamaican and Hispanics. Growing up, a lot of people didn't realise I was Oriental and assumed that I was Hispanic. Till this day, that is still very much the case.
People just kind of like prejudge you because growing up, I had this whole thing of like, oh, light skins or prestige. They'll just look at you and just think that you're one type of way, you know, that you think you're better than everyone else because you're lighter skinned and or your hair's like this or because you're racially ambiguous. And it's just like, it was a lot and it wasn't fair.
That does happen. Back in the day, there was barely to none, minimal 5 people in the whole school that were Filipino at that time. And because I'm mixed and fair-skinned, I wasn't really classified as Filipino in their little group. Over time that changed, but that does happen. Some people judge face value.
It's just so clear that there are some people that put racially ambiguous people into their own perceived categories. Any other thoughts on this topic?
London has always and will always be diverse, and therefore I've never felt a way of my identity.
Never had any issues around being mixed race in any way, shape or form, to the point where even I've said to one of my parents before that, you know, being mixed race is its own thing. As much as people see you as black, being mixed race is its own identity, because at times you obviously don't fit into the white crowds, and also black people are quick to remind you also that you are mixed race. So I love my experience and where I grew up because everybody was so diverse. As a multiracial person, growing up in London was the best thing that ever happened to me, and I'm grateful for all of my life experiences. And the area that I got to grow up in was an amazing place.
living in London, there's such an influx, it's so diverse, and it's so nice to be surrounded by so many different cultures. So there's like two sides to everything, but that was just my personal experience.
Thank you so much to every single one of you for being here. Thank you, ladies. It's been a pleasure to speak with you and to hear and gain an insight into your experiences, and I'm sure the listeners feel the same. I would like to invite people, if you want to hear more thoughts around growing in authentic confidence and mindset tips, follow Sophia at its_Sophia LG on Instagram. So that is at ITS_SOPHIALG, and check out her upcoming events. Joining me next time are some other special guests that are close to my heart to share their stories. So stay tuned in, and to leave you with this: mixed identity expresses different cultures connecting, is living in translation and realizing that translation can be beautiful. It's magical, exciting, yet can be confusing when it comes to identity. Thanks for joining me on Learning to Live in Translation. If today's episode resonated with you, share it with someone who's ever felt between worlds or everywhere at once. I'm Simone, and this is Learning to Live in Translation.
Yeah. London. Elowin. Deowin. City we living. Where we at, where we at, where we at.